I would recommend first figuring out where the income is going to come from and build up some additional source of income, whatever it could be. So you're not just living off your savings, because if you do that and you're nervous all the time and you're worrying 24/7, what happens if I don't succeed within the next 6 months, then it's going to take away from your focus and your ability to put, all of your effort into what you're trying to achieve.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. I'm your host and late night DJ, Yona Weiss. And with me today is Julia B, as she likes to be called, but Julia Bykhovskaia. I hope I got that right.
Very good.
Not bad. She is a multifamily investor focused on the Texas markets and founder of Sunsail Capital. And so pleased to have you on the show today, Julia. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I mean, we've been connected for quite a while, but haven't had the chance to really talk much or do much together. But there's, it's always comes a time when the boats meet at sea or something like that, right? I don't know, trying to make a connection between the Sunsail.
Yes. Absolutely.
So let's see. I mean, you've been in New York for a long time, but then found multifamily and found Texas as specifically the market and the asset class, which a lot of people kind of gravitate to just because it's like one of the biggest markets in the country. And obviously, as anyone who's in the multifamily space knows, it's hot and it's always hot and continues to be growing. So how did you make that switch? Or maybe even before we get there, let's give us a little background, a little backstory. How did, you were in the finance industry for a long time before you made this transition into full-time multifamily?
Yes, absolutely. So I moved to New York City from Moscow in 2001. In August of 2001. And I moved because I was accepted to business school, NYU Stern University, for an MBA program. And that's how I moved to the United States. And I majored in finance because NYU is very well known for its finance program. And I was very young back then, not to date myself, but yes, I was early 20s. I was the youngest.
In 2001, I thought you were like 10 years old.
Yeah, thank you. In heart, I was. But so I grew to love finance. I majored in finance and then decided to stay and work in finance. And the majority of my investment career before real estate was spent working at various hedge funds. And we invested in something called corporate distressed debt, which is one of the most fascinating areas of finance. I'm a very intellectually curious person, so it's very intellectually stimulating for sure. And there's a lot of drama about it, when people are trying to divide the company in bankruptcy. So I was very attracted to intellectual just stimulation of that profession. And, always wanted to actually run a hedge fund, not work for one, but that never materialized for me. So eventually ended up working for Credit Suisse and their corporate debt restructuring group in New York, which was also a very interesting role. And I loved it. But at the same time, I started to feel that, Credit Suisse was a non-investment role and I'm an investor at heart. So I was always looking for an opportunity to go back and be an investor. But also at the time, I started to think that I want to be on my own. I don't want to work for anyone. I'm a very free-spirited person. So I don't like taking orders. And I like to do things the way I would like them to do. So I was looking, I didn't know anything about real estate, but I did go to Tony Robbins' UPW, Unleash the Power Within program. And it dawned on me while I was there that, I must make this step. I need to somehow find a way to be on my own. And so I made a decision to exit finance, not necessarily finance, just to not work for anyone.
Right.
And look for something else to do. So I didn't resign right away, of course. I was thinking about what my next step would be, and tried a lot of different things, looked at a lot of different ideas, some smart, some not so smart. They included network marketing, like a lot of people. Then I explored e-commerce, selling things on Amazon. And finally, somehow, I always say real estate found me. I was looking for something else, but then several things happened. One, I met someone who was doing Airbnb, and he introduced me to a concept of vacation rental and short-term rentals. So I decided that to build initial income to get me out of my job, I'm going to buy vacation rentals. And that's what I did. But then at the same time, I started exploring more real estate. And one of my very good friends and also partner on several deals, David Davidenko. So he introduced me to multifamily investing. And immediately, once I saw the concept, I knew this is just perfect for my skill set. And that would allow me to eventually to not have a boss. You're always going to have partners, right? But there's no one person telling you what to do. Right. And that's, for me, it was very important to be a partner and not an employee.
Right. But you were open. That was the amazing thing is when you're open to the idea and you're searching, you're looking, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, it found you, but it's an amazing thing that oftentimes, things find us and we meet the right people at the right time, because I truly believe because we're open to that and because we're open to the opportunity and looking for that opportunity.
I absolutely believe that. Yes. You have to make a decision first. And as Tony would say, with absolute certainty, and not ask, how you're going to do it. The how will come. And it always comes, in my life, it always came to me, but only after you commit to a decision.
Yeah, it's amazing because when we make that decision, it can be very scary at times, right? We're like
horrifying.
We're terrifying, exactly, and especially if it has to do, you have a finance background, right? So someone who has a finance background and having that background in credit, and understanding what that means to be financially secure to the point where you need to know. Where you're going to be able to pay your mortgage or your rent or whatever it's going to be, or if you have a family, how you're going to pay for expenses. And so for a lot of people, that's one of the things that's holding them back more than anything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how did you deal with that? I mean, at that time, obviously you kept your job at Credit Suisse at the time when you started investing in the short-term rentals, the Airbnbs.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the key is to not make any rushed decisions. And I have, friends asking me, like, should I resign? I really, I love real estate. I want to do real estate. Should I resign? And then they would tell me, I'm making 200, 300. One person said 700,000 a year, but I really want to be on my own. And I'm saying, okay, look, you have savings, obviously. Everyone has different situation, different, savings, different salaries, and then also different level of, how uncomfortable you are in your current job and how much time you're spending on the current job. Because if it's just, a little annoying to you, but you're making a lot of money, I would recommend first figuring out where the income is going to come from, and build up some additional source of income, whatever it could be. So you're not just living off your savings, because if you do that and you're nervous all the time and you're worrying 24/7, what happens if I, don't succeed within the next 6 months, then it's going to take away from your focus and your ability to put, all of your effort into what you're trying to achieve. You're just going to be too distracted and too stressed. So I always say, take your time. And that's what I did. It took me 15 months, between the point when I made the decision and when I actually pulled the trigger, right? And I bought 2 houses and they started to generate some cash. So I thought about insurance, health insurance. I already investigated. I answered all of my own questions. So I knew how it's going to be. And I knew that my savings together with the additional income I had would allow me to not stress about money, at least for 3 years. And that's how it was for me.
That's pretty good. You have that sort of cushion.
That was assuming that I cut down a lot on my existing expenses, which unfortunately I did not have to do. But that was my worst case. I just cut down, no restaurants, no travel, just live very modestly, just pay my rent, pay my cell phone bill, and cook at home. And I don't cook, so it was a big sacrifice. Yes.
It's a lot of ramen noodles or cereal and things like that.
Okay. Yeah.
That's fascinating, because to me, that shows a person who has a lot of, you have willpower, right? To make that decision and realize you need to get there, right? You figure out a game plan of how to get there. Like you said, you research those things that you knew were going to be, taken off your plate if you did become an entrepreneur, you did go off on your own. And when you were ready, you jumped out into the waters, right?
Absolutely. And also what I would add to that, always think about your absolutely worst case, right? So what happens, because I thought it through. So what happens if I give it my all, I try as much as I can to achieve whatever I want to achieve, and then it doesn't work. I fail, and now I am running out of money, and here I am. What do I do? So I always thought that in my worst case, I can always go back, maybe not to Credit Suisse, but maybe to some third-tier, local bank, and they would be happy to have me with my MBA from NYU and Credit Suisse experience and all the hedge fund experience, maybe even at a lower salary. But I told myself, like, Julia, you're not going to be starving.
Right.
If it doesn't work, you're not going to have, your dreams come true, but you're not going to die of hunger. You're still going to make it. So that took away a lot of my fears. Like, okay, well, I'll give it a try. It doesn't work. At least I know I tried. So I didn't want to have regrets that I didn't try.
Absolutely. And do you looking back right now, you've been kind of in this boat for the past few years where you've successfully partnered and invested in many multifamily deals and continuing to do that. I mean, looking back, would you do anything differently when it comes to, starting that part of this relatively new journey that you've taken?
I wouldn't, because I didn't know anything about how to, navigate that. And it turned out, I think part of it was luck, the universe, grace, but everything I did kind of was falling into place, right? In terms of multifamily, maybe, because I spent a couple of years trying to break into big multifamily. Mm-hmm. So not the mistake, but I would do it differently. So I was trying to do everything on my own. So I thought, okay, obviously I come from finance, so I can underwrite. And I actually love underwriting. Of course, I want to do asset management when we actually buy a deal, because I'm going to be good at that too. And I'm a very curious person, so I'm going to want to know how every line item should be structured. So I want to do that. Also, I want to understand all the legal documents. And also, I want to do all capital raising. Right. So, and then it led to the situation when I was trying to do everything on my own for several months. And then I started to see that it's just not going to work, especially, no matter how smart you are, right? If you don't have experience, you cannot be taken seriously unless you have someone with you who has credibility, right?
So when you mean being taken seriously, you mean by sellers, brokers,
by the
lenders?
Brokers and sellers, right? So if you're trying to buy, I don't know, even $5 million deal or $10 million deal, they're going to say, who are you? What's your equity source? And show us your net worth, because you need to guarantee the loan. And what's your experience? Mm-hmm. Have you purchased in this market before? Or any market? Do you have any multifamily? And you say, no, but I'm very smart, I'm very hungry. They're like, okay, well, goodbye. That's very helpful, but we really couldn't care less about, you and the whole universe. I'm very smart. So, and it somehow it didn't click right away that I don't have the net worth. I knew I don't have credibility, but I thought because I come from finance and I can, speak the same language as they do, and they do, but still they're like, okay, well, what's the net worth? Where's the equity? Where's the experience? And that's when I realized that I need to definitely partner with other people who can bring other pieces of the puzzle to the table, and I'll bring what I have. And then it made me think, what is it that I have, right? And I wrote it down so I can underwrite. Then I had time, right? And I was okay, and I wanted to fly and tour. And I had some money that I was willing to invest in earnest money deposit, because generally people want to split it. Mm-hmm. They don't, one single person doesn't want to commit to the whole 100% of EMD, which turns into non-refundable deposit, right? They want to share the risk. And so I said, okay, I can do this. I can do asset management, and maybe I can bring some money, but I'm not going to commit to a number because I've never done it. And then after I wrote it down, I started pretty much offering myself to people who I liked, and I would say, are you interested in North Carolina and Atlanta? Because I already made connections with the brokers and built some relationships with them. So I would tell people, look, I know who the brokers are. I toured the deals. They know me. I have time. I have money to travel, and I have money for AMD, and I can underwrite. Do you care to work together? Let me know. And I offered myself to quite a few people. And then one group, who are very good friends of mine, they said yes. And we spent quite some time pursuing deals. And then eventually it happened so that me and David Davidenko, we partnered up, and we started pursuing deals together. And this is how eventually my first deal came about. But I think if I were smarter about that from day one and not spent over a year doing everything on my own and thinking it's gonna actually transpire into a deal, it just would be faster. But at the same time, the time spent chasing deals, I had a lot of time, and not getting them, I had a lot of time to learn how the market works, how the process works, how the underwritings are done, how to talk to. So it was useful.
Sure.
So when I finally got a deal, it wasn't in any way premature. I knew exactly what to do and what to expect. So it was both good and bad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's a very common thing, that people think that they can do everything on their own. And the more you get involved in multifamily, especially commercial real estate, you realize how there are so many aspects to it. Yeah. And like you said, the most important thing is just the credibility of, it's like a catch-22. You need to get the deal in order to get other deals, but you can't get the deal unless you have deals. So partnering with others and leaning on their experience is definitely the fast track. I've heard this from countless people, to get there. So obviously you came to that realization, you got it done, and now you can be that, to others, right? Because you're already in that space.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing. So what advice would you give to someone? I mean, would that be like the number one advice you'd say is just find partners or
I think step number one is think about what you can offer. You can, can you underwrite? If not, can you raise money, right? Or can you tour properties and be boots on the ground and save people time, right? Can you go and tour and send pictures and notes from the tour? Can you do that? Or can you asset manage once the deal is purchased? And do you have any money? And and how much money do you have? All right. Because it's important as well, right? Because some people have time, they have the skill set, they have no money. Other people have a lot of money and no desire to spend time or, do any underwriting. So, it's a lot of flying if you're investing out of state as well. So think about it. What is valuable to others, and what do you have? And then once you have them, just approach people you like, and ask them if they would be interested.
Makes sense. because and it does take time to find those people that you like also. You have to figure out who the brokers are and figure out who the right people are to partner with, because as you said before, like you put yourself out there to many people, but it wasn't only until you found the right people, the right ones that you connected with the most, that actually made sense and made the deal happen.
Yeah. And then network, absolutely. 3 or 4 years ago, I went to different conference at least once a month. And it wasn't, at first it was to learn, but at the end of that period, it was just to network. I wouldn't even sit in the audience. Everyone is standing outside and you're just talking about what other people are doing and seeing if there's any opportunity for collaboration. So, and I think if you are anyone, if you're active and persistent, those opportunities will come.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So nowadays in your multifamily properties, are you focused yourself personally on the asset management, underwriting side of things, or do you find yourself kind of doing a lot of everything?
Well, I call myself acquisitions person, right? So I do still love Excel, and I love not Excel. I don't like boring Excel, right? Excel, but I love staring at properties and analyzing and trying to understand how they compare on a relative basis. So I do underwriting, and I do talk to brokers quite a lot. But now it's much easier because we closed several deals. So brokers know that we can close. They never had any issues with us. So there is now some extra effort to just regular communication. There's a deal, you discuss the metrics and you submit an offer. And asset management, I want to be very good at it. I feel like there's a lot of room to grow. You need to be very granular. And I feel like it's complex and it's very important for the success of the asset. So this is something I'm focusing on as well. And capital is less so. I wouldn't call it my core skill set. Typically, I still would raise some capital. It's my personal friends, they invest, but I'm not proactively going out and trying to build, a platform for retail equity.
Yeah, that makes sense. Everyone has their things that they're good at, and you focus on that and you'll get better at it. So that sounds like you're taking your skill sets and just excelling within the multifamily space.
Yeah, it's actually much easier, right? Like I remember I had a mentor who told me, like, you need to pick. I said, why do I need to pick? I want to do everything. No, you have to force yourself to either do acquisitions or you do capital raise. Don't do both, because you don't have time for both, and you cannot be equally good. So even if you're good, pick the area that you're better at, and just move on. And that's what I did, and I think it was a good decision. Yeah.
So tell me about Sunsail Capital. How did you come up with that?
So I don't have any big and interesting story. It was a long time ago when I came up with a name, and I just wanted a name for my own company, which I'm gonna run one day. It was before I knew anything about real estate, and I think I do love sailing. So I was on a sailing trip in British Virgin Islands with 100 other people. It was like a party cruise, kind of. It's with Manhattan Sailing Club. Every year they do Caribbean regatta, and people from all walks of life, they travel together, and that's what we did. And I think Sunsail, there's a boat manufacturing company called Sunsail, but there was no Sunsail Capital. So I checked the brand name, and I liked the combination of sun and sail, and that was it. So there was no big thought about it. I like the name. It sounds very sunny to me.
All right, no, that's great. No, it's important. It's fun. It's fun to learn about the origins of a company, and obviously you're still partnering up with others to do things, right? Even though you said you have your partner David.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're joining forces with other groups as well to take down bigger deals.
Yes, but particularly with two groups right now, we kind of have a team that works very well together, and we really admire each other. And it's good team of people. So we work together.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, Julia, I want to transition now to what we call the final four. These are 4 questions I ask all of my guests. And the first one is, what is the worst job that you ever had?
Oh, there was one job. I'm not going to name the company. It wasn't the worst job per se, but I was very bored. That was the problem, right? And I was 24 at the time, and I am a very intellectually curious person. And when you're 24, they put you to do like the most boring things, like investment banking. I was in investment banking. Would pitch books. And all night long, you would create PowerPoint presentations for clients and do, comps analysis, but the same thing over and over. And I was getting bored with that. So to the point that I was 24, very brave, unafraid. So I just eventually I resigned. The first time I tried to resign, my boss told me, don't be silly, Julia. I said, but I hate it. And she's like, well, you think I don't hate it? I hate it myself. So just sit here, and look for a job. That's what he said. And I took his advice and I did look for another job. But eventually I just couldn't take it anymore. So 3 months later, I just walked out. And it was all, I was close to, not getting my visa, because I was on a student visa extended, but everything, the universe just wanted me to stay here. So everything worked out eventually.
Perfect. Awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Second question, what's a book that you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
Paradigm shift. So the book I can mention off the top of my head is the book I'm reading right now, which is Dale Carnegie, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Oh. And I'm sure a lot of listeners have read this book before. And I did as well. The first time I read it, I was 18. And the second time I read it was probably 10 years ago. But every time, and I'm rereading it right now, but there's so much things that I don't remember. And I feel like right now, for me, but a lot of people I talk to, like we worry a lot. There's always something dramatic to worry about. It was COVID. Now there is the war with Ukraine. Then multifamily market. There's a lot of uncertainty there. Interest rates are going up, and all of us have elderly parents, if we still have parents. So people are just worrying about everything. And this book gives you a very good perspective how to get a grip, as I would say, and stay chill and calm. So I would highly recommend it to people. And a lot of my friends who are reading it right now, they say we really enjoy and it really calms us down.
Very cool. No, that's awesome. It's actually one book I haven't read. I've read some others, How to Win Friends and Influence People is a famous one, but haven't come across that one. So I'll have to add that to the book list. But third question, what is a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
Well, I would go with something related to multifamily. I would like to become an amazing asset manager because I always see gaps, and I look at the property and I think, it could be optimized so much better. Everything could be improved, expenses could be reduced, the income could be increased. And I think I'm getting there, but there's so much to learn. So this is what I'm working on. And I love talking about it with my peers to exchange ideas. And I love going to conferences. I'm pursuing asset management certification from IREM, Institute of Real Estate Management. So I'm spending a lot of time on it, but I enjoy thinking about it. To me, it's a game. It's a puzzle to solve. So I really want to solve this puzzle. Absolutely it is. There's so much, like you said before, it's so granular. There's so many aspects to it. So the more you can learn, obviously this is your business. This is your, source of income and source of wealth. You want to be the best you can be at it. So, getting better sounds like a plan. That's the way to do it. And fourth and final question, what does success mean to you? So I actually thought about it not so long ago. And it's not a very straightforward question to answer, right? And it could be a lot of things. But after giving it a thought, I realized that for me personally, success is freedom. It's freedom of time, freedom of money, and freedom of choice, who you spend your time with and how you spend your time with. And I would like to do, as I say, whatever I want with whoever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want. So if I could do that, I think that's freedom. Money is great, right? And we all want to have a certain amount, but after a certain point, I personally don't need more. I just want to have enough to not think about money, but I want to have enough time to spend with my loved ones, with my friends, and with my family, and pursuing, other interesting things apart from real estate. But real estate, I do love. It's definitely, going to be my focus for the next probably 20 years. But I want to have time for other things. I don't want to become a workaholic that can only think about work. Right.
Obviously, it's, it allows you to free up, like you said, to be able to do whatever you want, wherever you want, with whomever you want.
Exactly.
And wherever you want.
Wherever
right?
you want. And have fun, right?
Exactly. That's awesome. Well, where can our listeners find you or reach out to you?
So my website, which is www.sunsailcapital.com, and my personal email, which is Julia. There's not my last name, just Julia@sunsailcapital.com.
Awesome. Well, it's been a true pleasure spending the time with you today. Julia, thanks so much for taking the time out and sharing some more about your story and about what you're working on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And to our listeners, thank you guys for listening all the way to the end. And remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.